Welcome to Champagne Chats, discussions from the green room where we talk all things about the events industry. I'm Kate Woolley, also known as DJ Wildflower, and it's great to be joining you. Today, we'll be talking all things event life with our very special guest, James Diamond. Let's get started. Today on the show, I am so excited to have James Diamond join me. James is a Perth-based entertainer, a close-up comedy magician whose entertainment is as memorable as his hair is fabulous. He's an actual Seinfeld encyclopedia, and I'm going to test you on that, and he's always up for a chat. It's my absolute pleasure to have him here joining me today. Please welcome James.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me. Super pumped to be here.
I really appreciate it.
Something we haven't discussed, but I thought we should probably actually set up like a safe word in case I overtalk. It's not if, but when.
You are one of my very first guests on the first season of Champagne Chats.
Thank you.
And to premise this, I obviously wanted to start off Champagne Chats, a podcast about the events industry and my friends in the events industry. And I wanted to start with people that I trusted. And so I'm like, number one, go to my friends. But in thinking of that, in the conversations about the Champagne Chats, you really were one of the people that was kind of the kernel of the idea about the green room.
Yeah.
And do you remember what that event was?
I think it was I know the venue and I know where we were.
Yes.
Was it McDonald's or am I dreaming McDonald's?
I think it might have been McDonald's. It was definitely Crown.
Yes.
And it was definitely one of the meeting rooms that gets turned into a green room.
Yes, it was.
And one of the things that I feel like when you work in events is that unless you're working on the same event, because we're all working weekends, nights, we're all working at the same time, we don't get to see each other.
I think one of the funniest things as well is that as we, other people in the industry would know firsthand where you just go, right now it's clear. Yeah. But work might pop up as well or something. And that's the nature of the game. And sometimes nothing's truly set in stone. But tightening a group of friends in the events game is probably maybe only half a dozen to a dozen for me max. But we're on the same boat, whether it's Matt Hale, whether it's yourself, whether it's just like, I'm free-ish, maybe.
Free-ish, and then you have a date that kind of moves in the calendar.
And then they've shifted and you're like, and it's just this constant, that iCloud hold just keeps getting shifted.
It does.
And it's almost be automated at one point. But that's...
But I think that's part of the reason why we connect with other people in the industry because it's not a typical 9 to 5.
No.
And that's not for everyone to have the inconsistency. We both like the spontaneity and the flexibility and we love having Monday mornings free.
Yes.
It's a big part of the perk is...
Big part of the thing.
Yeah.
And spontaneity hits the nail on the head because a lot of the times I know people like Matt or whoever it is or yourself, it's always like, hey, real quick, coffee? Yeah. Frio?
Yeah.
In 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we can, but it's just that the longer you plan ahead, the more likely
you're more likely to actually be able to catch up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So spontaneity is a big thing.
Yeah. So you're a magician.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very proud of talking about my friend who's a magician and I'm very proud about talking about all my friends with various talents because it's a very cool job.
It is pretty
You're an
cool,
actual magician. You're a comedy magician.
Yeah.
You do up-close magic. So you blow people's minds on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that get started?
It's one of the things I always liked it as a kid.
Yeah.
I think one of the most common questions is how did you get into magic? Like how did you, And I think in a good way and a bad way, I don't have one set thing. I don't have one set memory. I just have a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen things that as a kid, if you add them all up, it's like, well, I guess he was always going to be a magician. Like
there were
my sister moved to Sydney in the early 2000s, late 90s, and she called the house once at 2 a.m. My mum thought something was up because that's what Portuguese women do. They over-worry. Yeah. And it was just, I was going to tell James there's a magic show on. It's on at 2 a.m, but it'll be on there in 3 hours' time. And I got to get up on a weeknight and record it, Before that, we had the book club in primary school. And
Scholastic Book Fair.
One of the classics.
That was
and there was a book there. It was called Alan Snow's Wacky Guide to Tricks and Illusions. I just wanted that book so bad.
Yeah.
I just wanted that book so bad and had my little $20 or $30 and we sent away for it. Oh, that was probably one of the first ones.
That's like $1,000 in today's money.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That was like, that was a big, I think that might have been one of the first memories.
Yeah.
One of the big ones that maybe associated with that is my parents used to have a once a week, which by the way, you've got to give it to them, once a week getting all their friends together for a card night. Like we're just saying about how hard it is to get hold of people and about 12 people around a card table all throughout the 90s, once a week, every week without fail, to play a Portuguese card game called Bisca.
Yes.
But there's a bit of coffee and cake in between.
That's fantastic.
And I have really stringent memories of just reading. I'd read those books back and forth and learn and learn and learn. And then when they're having their coffee and cake, James would come out and can you show us? And that was like, as a 9-year-old, there's no
you've got a set
scarier
audience.
room
yes.
than just older European people, and it's just all around you. Just it's so when you're young, you're just like, these characters were larger than life.
Yes,
my dad would do.
But you had an audience from a very early age who were willing to give you time,
and I just loved it. I just loved it.
You had a weekly show already at 9 years old.
Yeah, you had a residency. It was at my grandma's house in East Fremantle, but it was a residency nevertheless.
It is.
And then my dad, on rare occasions, but nevertheless, would crank out a trick or two. Boy, oh boy, like you'd see it. Everything goes back onto playing the game. I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
I just go, but how? How is that done?
Yeah.
And I just, and you know, I'd beg for him to teach me the secrets. He didn't, unfortunately. Kind of used to hold off quite a bit. It's one of the things I was saying in one of my routines where I say, you know, my dad's one that got me into magic. I'd beg for the secrets. He wouldn't tell me what they were, but I realised he wasn't so much keeping the secrets from me. He was actually keeping them for me because in a way I have a real appreciation, especially in a day and age now. Like, I mean, now more so we can Google everything and anything and AI and everything and you can get an answer to anything. Back then, when you were finally shown something,
yes,
wow, what a moment.
That's like
so special. It was never just a card trick or a coin trick, or it's just like, wow.
Yes. To keep that is such a special
so that was
thing.
Probably like, that's what got me into it initially if I had to, but there was no particular date in time. It was just a regular thing where.
It feels very much embedded in your DNA.
It was just like it was kind of organically just embedded in. Then became an adult and had to do a few kind of, you know, you study, you do this and that.
Did you study?
Oh boy, I was in IT doing like security networking and stuff like that.
Fantastic.
Different life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe when I was about 19, 20, Dad was unfortunately unwell. And, you know, I think my way of dealing with it was maybe just to, which I don't love, but I was just to hide from reality a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd be in my room for hours a day. I think from the age of 18, I'm quite open with this with people, from the age of 18 to 21, I probably went out maybe 10 times, 8 times, just never go out.
Yeah.
Just wasn't in the mindset for it. But annoyingly, I wasn't even home and spending time with my dad. I was just locked away. I just didn't want to face reality. Discovered some of the old magic stuff again, the old books, and just went deep down the rabbit hole, no pun intended. Just started reading, learning, you know, showing him a thing or two.
Yes.
You know, and just found it again, and then it just hit hard. And I just thought, you know, it becomes like a part-time thing, and then it becomes, and you just build up. And then my first ever gig was December 2006.
I love that you remember the date.
Yeah, it was for a law firm in Mount Lawley. It was actually, my birthday's December the 15th. My dad's is the 17th. And that event was on the 16th. And Dad had passed away 6 months prior. And it was just kind of, you know, I closed with an effect, the very first effect I saw him do at that card game.
Oh.
It's not a technically strong effect.
Yes.
And let me just side note here, by the way, that trick, when I figured out how it was done, it wasn't even a difficult trick. His showmanship is what sold it.
Yes.
Like, it's not – that trick, truth be told, is in kids' books.
Yeah.
Like, it's a different time now. What was like, oh, my dad done this. It wasn't actually a grand thing, truth be told. It's in a kid's book you can get at the library.
Yes.
But the showmanship and the storytelling.
I think people ask me the same thing, how do you become a DJ? And like, I don't know. Well, I do know. Like, there were signs. Like, I was the kid who brought a CD wallet to a house party at 15.
Great.
I would not leave the stereo.
Great.
And like, have them listen to songs that I had downloaded on LimeWire over 6 hours because I needed to hear that one specific song.
I want to hear that one mix of that song.
It's an obsession in a way that you can't really quantify.
Yes.
And then until it kind of comes together and you go, oh.
It's just in hindsight it makes sense. There's no one-off. I've said it wasn't that one party that got you into it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of meant to be, if you amalgamate all 20 or 30 times instances where this happened.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it would be like, why didn't you get into it? Like, if you didn't get into it, that would be the real story.
Yeah.
Because you go, it just makes sense.
And even today, I have to admit, I've never actually seen you perform a magic trick. Can you believe that? People are going to be like.
When people see you and.
Show us a trick.
Yeah, or if other people at the table don't know, so they go, this is my friend James. He's a magician. Magician, really? Can you show us something? You know, and so usually the friend doesn't, but then the friend of the friend will be like,
yes.
Well, why would you introduce that if this isn't going to, can we, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've put it out there now, so we'll come back. We'll circle back
to that. Yeah, we can circle around to it.
Circling back to magic, you've been highly influenced by your dad's showmanship. You are taking on the tricks that he's shown you, but also realizing what actually it takes to perform these tricks and learning your own tricks. Yeah. And you're starting to bring your own space into it. So I think the side that is different from a traditional magician is you're a comedy magician.
Yeah.
Because you're a very funny guy. How was this something
that side of it?
Did you know that you were going to be doing a comedy
No,
act?
I didn't. I think it's really hard to sell it as real.
Yeah.
And I feel like you'd get a lot
real as in people are just a bit jaded or?
No, just sell it like to take it as like a serious magician with magical powers or this or that. It's just a really hard thing to sell. And it also entices a lot of people be outspoken and this and that and the hecklers and it can be a lot. But when you take the comedy side and up front, it's very – the opening lines and just demeanour of the character says, I don't take this seriously. Yeah. You shouldn't either.
It's
just a bit of fun
as well.
It's really disarming. When you take a joke or two at yourself and even to a degree, I minimise what the trick is going to be. I really just bring it down.
Yeah.
You know, where do you go from there? No one can really – I think early on just with the young James, the unexperienced James, the heckling, that was a lot when you're first starting.
It's really brutal.
It's really brutal.
And
you're trying to give it your best shot. At the end of the day, even now to a degree, like, you know, James Diamond is you know, on Instagram taking selfies, overconfident, doing this, doing that. It's there's still a guy behind it.
Yes.
Running a business, trying to put a show together and trying to make something of it, you know. So to minimise that where I can, you know, I know we spoke briefly once about Penn and Teller, you know, and
because I said to you that as cliche as it is, they're my favourite well-known musicians.
I've been lucky enough to speak to them a few times in Vegas and at the various bits there. And Teller once he spoke to a few magicians there, and he said one of the reasons why he never talks is because he used to get heckled all the time, and his small little stature and this, he was just picked on. And he was touring a little bit of.
So I was so excited that you've actually spoken to Teller.
Yeah, that was it in itself.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, have you spoken to him?
I went to play it back and it wouldn't actually record the voice. No, it was crazy. Like, what? And he was getting heckled. And when he was doing a tour of like India and Africa and a few bits and pieces. And he said he switched to a silent act, because he didn't know the local languages. But when he went to a silent act, no one heckled because you just have to kind of watch now. Because if he's not saying anything, well, then you can't really say anything.
Yeah.
I say everything, as you can see now. I just haven't stopped talking. But in general, it's what can we do to minimise that to bring the performance piece back to entertainment. So for him, it was not talking at all. And for me, it's just really having the comedy side of it, you know. So it's just a way to disarm it and just really if you sell it off as real, it doesn't – it's really hard to sell. So in this day and age, it's just a really – quirky angle that
but it's also you've taken it. I think with anything is the more niche it is, the better. It's kind of the advice.
And I think to a way, even the like the last 4 or 5 years was the whole thing's been James Diamond magician and time travel. It's the whole time travel thing. That in itself says don't take this guy seriously because no one with a straight face. Yeah, one of my ongoing gags is by the way, guys, I'm not actually a magician. By the way, it's just a front for tax evasion. What I am is an all powerful time traveller, and that's one of those. And like no one, but by saying that early on, you've really established, guys. Don't take it too seriously. I don't. We're just here for some fun. And early on when you get your reviews and you Google reviews or your booking agent send you. Initially, I'd love like, the magic was so this or the magic was, Now I live off the he was so funny. Yeah, that was a really good energy. Like he made us laugh. Yes, and that's where I want to be now. Like it's the comedy side of it.
Is that a lasting impact of how you make someone feel? Like the way whenever you talk about your dad, you always talk about how he made you feel and like the fact that you were enthralled by him not sharing the secrets, not doing that.
Yes.
And whatever the trick was, it's how you make that person feel. And that is the essence of what makes a successful event. At the end of the day.
It goes with all of us, like
in all industries.
The music is the tool.
Yes.
Or the magic trick is the tool. But ultimately, it's the feeling.
And it's also
the story we tell.
It's the storytelling to get to that moment.
To get to that point.
And we all have the same, you've got the same books as other magicians. I've got the same music as other performers. It's the way in which you do it, which makes us unique in our own
I've never actually thought about that. We've all got the same resource. We've got access to the same ultimate resources.
Yes. But the way you deliver it.
The recipe, I guess, is so I guess it's like ingredients versus the recipes. We've got the ingredients, but how do we actually combine it?
It's something that really – I used to say as you're getting old, as we're getting older, as the older millennials, the thing of like, just be you and be original. You're like, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
But that is, as you do get older and you start to realize this is who I am, and the more you kind of double down on that. So the character of James Diamond is at essence big-hearted James. It is your personality. Yeah. But there is the performer aspect, and it's the character of the hair and the fabulous clothes, and it's always and you are that person. But I think that's one thing that people don't understand in all industries in entertainment is that kind of hyper-characterized version of yourself. It's an act. It's you put that on because
it's our superhero outfit.
Yeah, it's
Clark Kent is still Superman, but everything's exaggerated.
Yes, an exaggerated version of yourself.
Yeah, and I say that all the time. I say, I'm not at home stressing about the hair all day, getting the ruler out, making sure, I'm blow drying to it. It's an act, It's
and it's memorable.
I appreciate it,
and
but
people
it's
and it's fabulous.
Yeah, but it's
part of it's a tool in order for you to kind of break.
It's a bit of branding. It's a bit of peacocking. It's how do we? It's a thing,
Yes.
The whole hair thing actually came up back around 2009 when I had an event at the Left Bank, and probably a slightly older crowd, maybe in their late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And we're upstairs doing a birthday, and it was a bit of a mixed gig. So we did a bit of the close-up stuff, and then we had a small little 15-minute piece show for the whole room. Mm-hmm. And I called the birthday boy up and, had one of these lines. I made something vanish of his. I borrowed something of his and we vanished it. And then I said, nothing on my hands, in my hands, up my sleeves. My hands haven't left your sight. And then in front of the whole group, he said, it's probably in your hair, mate. And everybody laughed.
Yeah.
Like a real belly laugh. And he was so proud that he said that.
Yeah.
And so as you do when you get in the car, you start reciting what worked, what didn't. How do I entice that response again without fishing for it? And slowly the hair started getting a little bit,
and you realise you're like, that's a thing.
And so now I push for that line. If it doesn't hit it, I say the line myself, and I said, nothing on my hands, in my hands, up my sleeves, nothing even in my voluminous Portuguese hair. And it gets, I was about to say that, and you kind of fill the joke in for them.
Yeah.
But it's just things like that. Sometimes the best ideas, truth be told, aren't even my own.
Yes.
They're things that other people have said or murmured or whispered, and you thought, wow, that's fun. That's actually really funny.
It is. Like, it's something I'm enthralled in listening to. But do you have a network of friends and magicians that you...
Yeah. So there is a society of magicians.
So are you part of that society?
Yeah, I'm part of the society.
Because I feel like you'd need to talk about this with other people who actually get it.
You need to.
This is a very specific piece of knowledge that you all share.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And that you need to be able to connect with that. Because I think that's something in events, like we have friends in the industry
on that same
get
page,
what you do.
They get it.
But even more specifically as a magician in the event space.
And straight away, that's they're really good like that.
That's good. It's good to know you've got a network. And so you meet up or do you have a chat?
They do like an official meeting like once a month. Mm. Getting people in their 30s and above to actually be available once a month not even magicians have that kind of sorcery. So sometimes it just becomes phone calls or a never-ending group chat or just coming over, and whoever can make it, and we chat, we jam, we talk.
It's good that you have that network though, because I feel like that's something that you
it does make a big difference. I said to someone a while back now, I just say, so I wasn't available for an event, and I flicked on the magician's name and I just said to her, is he good? I said, look, he's amazing. And I said to him over the phone, I said, look, Google says they're my competitors, but the reality is they're my friends. Mm. And that's the reality of it. Like,
it's so important to have that.
On paper, they're my competition.
But you have to be able to work with people.
Absolutely.
And DJ Fadge, Claire, who I work with, we were pitted against each other as like, do you know about the other female DJ? And then we met each other and we're like, oh, you're fantastic. And we become really good friends. And we also put each other forward for events that we can't do.
No qualms
with full support, knowing that they're going to do a great job.
Yeah.
You have to have that. Yeah. Would you say any of the people in the Magician Society are like a mentor to you, or is it more just kind of a communal sharing space?
More of a communal sharing space.
Which is, I think, fantastic, because it means you can take lots of little bits and pieces that you can take from.
And same things, you can only look at something. I had a certain thing I wanted to achieve once about 6 years ago, and I was looking at this idea, black and blue. I was just like, how do I get this to happen for this trick I wanted to do? And then literally by having one night, I had all the guys over and we're just having food, sharing ideas, having a drink, and then one of them just said, why don't you do it this way? And I just don't know if in 1,000 years I would have come up with that.
Yeah.
It was like the old El Paso moment where, the old El Paso kid, and everyone's cheering. I just thought, wow, you've done it.
Yeah.
Like, and not only did that to go, but James, go ahead and use that. Like I don't.
And that's really special because
I know that's
he might have had that idea and then taken it, but you would know that was your idea that he's taken.
Yeah, he's like
that's a real level of respect.
That method was mine, but it's for a concept of something that I know you've been trying to do for a while. It's a bit of a time traveler motif thing that you've been working on for quite a while, and just make it yours and let me know how it goes and all that kind of stuff. It's good. The other thing as well with magic is a lot of it. I think one of the hardest parts of our game is dispelling what people think of magicians.
Yes.
You know, we all have these, I know I do, just bad memories of magicians of old with the top hats.
You say magician, people are going to have an idea.
There's a certain stigma attached almost. And,
yes.
You know, some of the new ones are undoing that stigma, you know, your Chris Angels, your David Blaines, and but a lot of people just still remember Uncle Fred at the birthday with the 3 card piles on the table trying to a lot of it's the stigma of trying to undo. And so a big thing about magicians sharing and wanting us to all be one-up each other and actually be the best we can be is I always say the only thing worse than no magic at an event is bad magic because then we all get tarnished with the same brush.
Absolutely.
And so if we can help each other, you know, don't get me wrong, in my early years, you know, again, you overthink it. Oh, what about clients? Oh, rejection. Oh, she went with him now. Oh, this one person. And then you grow up and you go, you know what? We're all just a bunch of guys who love this industry, who love what we do. It's okay.
And if you share with each other, everyone gets better. The whole industry is lifted.
Everyone gets every week. Like
there are events every week. Like there's
so many.
Even as a time traveler,
I can't fit them all in.
You can't fit them all in.
I can't. Like it's okay to, you know, and maybe truth be told, the James of maybe 5-6 years ago would have been a bit maybe standoffish and not sharing stuff and da-da-da. But at the end of the day, we're just like.
As you become more confident, as you get older as well, more secure in yourself, you realise there's part of a legacy of also sharing the up-and-comers.
Yes.
I think.
Yep.
It's about I can't even name the amount of people that have helped me over the years, given me a foot in the door, given me an opportunity that I wasn't ready for or that thought, no, you can do it.
And now you feel grateful to the point where you want to pass that baton on to the next and you're happy.
I think it's crucial that you do that because we wouldn't be where we were without those opportunities.
No.
And so to be able to pay that forward for the next generation.
Yep.
I'm curious to know, are there any female magicians in Perth?
Maybe just one off the top of my head, which would be Selena.
Yes.
Yep.
Of course. As a friend. Yes.
Yeah.
She's of course.
Yeah. I know she's got a hand in a few pies.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say she does some of the DJ stuff as well.
She does. She's a fantastic DJ, but she's an amazing magician. And also it's funny that I didn't even think about that. She's actually a friend of mine.
So
Sorry, Selena, you're a fantastic magician. But this is what I mean. Like it's funny because when you're someone who is a multifaceted performer, you're not one thing. But if you've met them as that person, that's what you kind of. And I met her as a DJ initially.
Yep. And fairness, and even though she's, you know,
she and her brother
pumping it as a DJ, I'll always see her as the other side because that's how I met Selena as the magician with Adam. So it's, I think maybe, I mean, over time there's been one or two others, but at the moment, and don't get me wrong, like people can start off with magic as a hobby. I don't know everyone who's into magic in WA.
Yeah.
But to at least a semi-professional degree or an avid hobbyist to the point where they've joined the society and done all that kind of thing.
With the event side, as a magician, you obviously get brought in so many different positions, you know, for all sorts of events. Do you have a particular type of event that you like working on or?
I think
is it a type of audience that you prefer?
Type of audience changes. Believe it or not, I'm just loving the corporate stuff at the moment.
There's nothing wrong with the corporates.
I'm really loving it. There's a real appreciation from an event side of things and the production side. Everything's always immaculate. Everybody's dressed impeccably. The photographers are on point. The lighting, everything's just there's a elegance about it, a level of quality that young James 15 years ago aspired to.
Yes.
You know?
And also corporate events, as much as it sounds dry, they are professional events.
They're professional
If
events.
you go to someone's house for an event, someone who's not organised an event is likely the one that's contacted you.
Yes.
If you get booked for a corporate event, you're going to have an event manager, a run sheet.
Yes. And
production specs,
that makes
production value.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, you know, like I mean, you're right with some of the house parties, you know. The houses can be incredible and this and that and everything.
You know,
and the birthday.
Very nice as houses.
Yeah, but they still don't book events every week.
Yes.
They're just there because it's their husband's 60th or whatever it is. And so to a degree, extra work has to be to make that doable, you know, in that alfresco setting. How do we make this little 10-minute show?
Exactly.
And lighting and this and that. But the corporate stuff, I'm just loving it.
I think it's what people –
there's just a great energy. Everyone's just super appreciative.
People are appreciative again post-COVID. Well, pre-COVID, I was definitely noticing a big drop-off on numbers. People would have RSVPs and you'd have 30% solid drop-off.
Yep.
Now people are like, you're on guest list, wait list, because people like...
I think you touched on something incredible there, which is, the old COVID, for all its difficulties and having all the work wiped and stuff like that was really rough. Not being able to get out of the house was rough. It was a lot of stuff going on which wasn't great. But boy, oh boy, was there some great stuff as well.
Yeah. Like many of the people that I've interviewed in this podcast so far, what interests me apart from the talent is that the business brain behind it, that there is a lot of strategy and planning and structure around what goes around creating the product.
Yes.
And people don't need to know that because it's all about the performance and the finished product. But I'm interested in actually the structure that goes behind that.
Yeah.
And for you, as a magician, you actually have to practice your tricks. You have to spend time physically doing that.
Yeah.
And then also you need people around you. And when you're autonomous, you also have to be accountable for your own time.
Yes, that's right.
But you're creative and you need to be around people. And that's that real balance.
One of the things talking about the creative side is just that. One of the books I read was, because there's days, there's weeks, maybe not months, but at least weeks where you just go, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Like in terms of creating or an idea, I've got no ideas. I've got nothing.
You have all these ideas and you go to do it at the time and you're like, I've lost the mojo.
I've just lost it.
I feel like doing it.
And so one of the biggest things is when it hits again, you just got to stop So if I'm in that mode where I've just come up with a new move or I've practiced something, or I've read something, or whatever it is, you've just got to, I will stop everything and write it.
Well, I love our chats and it always, I feel like we have a knack of running into each other more than we do of actually planning to catch up. Which speaks to our routine about, the weekends going down to Fremantle. And, But thank you so much for formally coming in and joining me for Champagne Chats.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening today. And remember, may the only pain in your life be champagne.